What's up, YouTube? What's going on? Hope everybody had a great weekend. It's crazy because this was one of the fights that I was anticipating. I know what I did a video review of the Fox Sports PBC rollout for this season this year. This is one of the fights that I was telling you guys that this is a good matchup right here. And the fight definitely delivered. Both fighters definitely delivered in this fight. I wasn't really sure who was gonna win, but I was kind of leaning towards Lamont Peterson only because he's been fighting at welter a little bit more. He's a bigger guy. I just felt like he was gonna outwork Lipenets. Lipenets, a guy coming up from 140. I thought he could have stayed at 140. But gave Mikey Garcia a pretty tough fight. But I thought Lamont was gonna pull this one off. He didn't. He wasn't able to do it. Dude had a long career, and I think one of you guys got to realize that this class of fighters at 140 and 147, you got Lamont Peterson, you had Berto, you have Victor Ortiz, you have Amir Khan, you had Tim Bradley, who's already retired, you had Devin Alexander. You got that 2004, 2005 class of fighters that all came in, started professional at that time. A lot of these guys were amateurs around the same time, very familiar with each other. That class of fighters are starting, they're on the very tail end of their careers, Some of them already retired, like I said, and some of them are on the brink of retiring pretty soon, And Lamont Peterson, it's his time, it's his time to go. What I can say about him is he's always fought tough fights. Most of them, almost all of them, he lost the bigger fights. He did beat Amir Khan in a very controversial way, but the majority of his fights is, I know a lot of people look at his record and see that he lost. He only lost to other elite fighters. His first loss was against Tim Bradley, I believe. Matisse did dominate him. Errol Spence dominated him. Danny Garcia won in a very controversial, debatable win right there. A lot of people felt that Lamont won that fight. I know first viewing of that fight, I thought Lamont won. When I watched it again, I gave Danny the slight edge. But Lamont Peterson is a good fighter. One of the main things I liked about him was his body work. Okay, I really liked his body work. But the thing with Lamont that, obviously he has a lot of heart and everything, but the thing with Lamont, the way that he fights, he was never really consistent. He switched it up pre-fight, mid-fight a lot, and sometimes he would switch it up and switch up the style in ways that I didn't feel like it was beneficial to him. The momentum was always different with him, and I could say probably the Danny Garcia fight was the best example of what I mean by he never really always stuck to what was working with him in the fight. Like, he picks and chooses at points in the fights where you want to fight a certain way, and that was one thing I didn't like about Lamont Peterson. I thought that his skill set, he showed signs and glimpses in certain fights where he was really, really good. And then there's times where it was like, yo, Lamont, this isn't working. It's time to switch it up or go back to doing what was working, So even in some parts of this fight, in this Lipenets fight, where, I thought that when he was fighting more of a slicker fight, he was doing very well. And then he will switch it back up to a different style. And I'm like, man, this isn't really working for you. And the thing with Lipenets in this fight, he was sitting down on all of his punches. So there was rounds in there that he was so gassed and halfway through the fight already, because he was throwing nothing but big shots all the way through. And when one of them finally connected, it was a wrap for Lamont. He's already coming off of a brutal loss to Errol Spence, a beatdown. Took a little break and come back and fight Lipenets, a guy that's doing nothing but throwing hard shots, big shots. And these guys threw a lot of punches up to that point. You know, these guys were going at it. It was a great, great war. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Lamont Peterson. But it is what it is. You know, it's his time. It's his time to go. You know, these guys in that class been around for a long time. And I know these guys are still boxing, are still doing well. That was before their class. You know, but you know, a lot of those guys they're just about all of them they're all past their prime. You know, but Lamont was definitely one of the better gatekeepers. You know, you beat him in a lot of fights. You either beat him and it led to you fighting for a title, or you defended your title against Lamont. It was either one or the other. You know, so. I think he had a good career, and I think it's time to hang it up. You know, I think it's getting stopped by Lipenets. I'm not trying to discredit him, but at welterweight, as a welterweight, I think it's time. You know, it's like you're no longer in a place where you're competing for a title. You know, you're far past that. You know, at this point, if you were to continue, it would be more like guys is just trying to get a win off your name, you know. And I remember when Kendall Holt was that guy at 140. It came to a point when this class of fighters, like Lamont Peterson, like Tim Bradley, and all these other guys that fought Kendall Holt, even Danny Garcia, when they were fighting Kendall was already around for a little bit before them. And when these guys came in, a lot of guys were beating him. You know, a lot of those guys at 140, the guys that's at 147 now. You know, because Kendall Holt was a little bit before them, and you know, he had his time. All right, and now Lamont Peterson would probably be like him, like, you know, like Kendall at 140. So, and this is no disrespect to any of these fighters. These are all very good fighters. It's just that I'm talking to them. I'm talking about them in a way where they're past. They're obviously clearly past their prime. Doesn't matter how I feel about them personally. The fact is, they all are past their prime, you know? So I think Peterson had a good career. Lipenets didn't check the rankings as far as where they are in the what WBC, you know, the sanctioning bodies or whatever. I didn't check, so I don't know where Lipenets is at. I mean, he was a champion at 140 before Mikey beat him. So I don't know where that really puts him. But, you know, Lipenets is a legit fighter. And, you know, even that says a lot. It says a lot, man. It says a lot. I'm not going to go into what this mean about who recently picked up wins against these fighters, because we know that Mikey and Errol just fought each other, and both of those guys just beat these two fighters recently. You know, Mikey had a tough fight with Lipenets, but, you know, he beat him soundly, in my opinion. And we already know what happened with Errol and Lamont in his last fight. I'm not going to get into all of that. You know, it doesn't really matter at this point. But, yo, shout out to Peterson. And shout out to everybody from his class, too, because they're all on their way out, in my opinion. And, you know, I think Terrence Crawford is going to beat up Amir Khan. That's just my opinion. We'll see how the fight goes. I think Khan could give him some trouble, but I think Terrence Crawford is going to stop him too. And, you know, I don't know where he's going to go from there after that. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to jump the gun. But listen, that's it for this one. Check me on the next video coming up. I'm going to do some 154 talk. And make sure you guys hit subscribe if you haven't already. Peace.